Oops, guess you'll have to start over, loser. She was sitting in my seat when she said it. Not just sitting, spinning around in it like a child who'd found a new toy. Her feet kicked up slightly with each rotation, and she was smiling. Actually smiling. I stood in the doorway of my workspace, holding 2 cups of tea. One for me, one for the person I thought was helping me. The tea was still hot, steam rising between us. My name is Sable. I had been working at Brightwave Communications for 3 years. The last 6 months, I'd been the regional expansion coordinator for their biggest project yet. The government had chosen our company to bring high-speed internet to rural villages for the first time. 112 villages across 7 districts. It was the kind of work that meant something. The kind where you went to sleep, feeling like your day mattered. I'd spent half a year traveling to these places. Dirt roads that turned to mud when it rained. Villages where the children would gather around my car because seeing a woman arrive alone in a vehicle was still unusual. I met with the village heads, the elders, the local government representatives. I shook hands with farmers who had calluses thicker than my thumb. I sat in their homes and drank their tea and listened to their hopes about what the internet would mean for their children's education, for their ability to sell their crops at fair prices, for everything. I wrote it all down, every single conversation, every promise I made about when we'd arrive, what we'd bring, who they should contact if something went wrong. I kept a journal for it, not the kind the company gave us with the Brightwave logo on the front, just a simple notebook I'd bought myself. I liked writing things by hand. It made the promises feel more real to me. The launch was set for 3 days from now. Everything was ready. The installation teams had their assignments. The equipment was sorted by village. The timelines were set. All I had to do was make a few final confirmations. That's when I'd ask Lyra to help me. She was the boss's niece, 23 years old, fresh out of university, and everyone knew she was only here because of family connections. She'd been hanging around the office for 2 months, supposedly learning the business. Mostly, she took long lunch breaks and posted pictures on social media, but she kept asking me about my project, kept saying how impressive it was, how she wanted to learn from someone who actually knew how to do real work. I'd felt sorry for her. Honestly, everyone treated her like she was useless. I thought maybe if someone gave her actual responsibility, she'd rise to it. So yesterday, I'd spent 4 hours walking her through everything, showing her all the files, all the plans, explaining which teams were going to which villages, and when. Do you think you could help me double-check everything this morning? I'd asked her, just to make sure we haven't missed anything before launch. Of course, she'd said. I'd love to help. I'd left her alone with the files for 2 hours while I went to a meeting. When I came back, she was in my chair and spinning. What do you mean, start over? I asked. My voice sounded distant to my own hearing, like it was coming from someone else's mouth. I made some changes, Lyra said. She stopped spinning and looked directly at me. To help improve things. I set the tea down on the shelf beside me, carefully. What kind of changes? Oh, you know. I switched around some of the village assignments, moved some dates, updated some contact information. The way you had it seemed inefficient. The words took a moment to land. You switched the village assignments. Village planning wasn't matching up with equipment distribution, so I fixed it. Fixed it. Yeah, you should be thanking me, actually. I moved to where I could see the main planning file on the monitor in front of her. She'd minimized it but not closed it. When I leaned over to look, she didn't stop me. She seemed proud of what she'd done. Everything was wrong. Village Kolapara was now scheduled to receive equipment meant for Village Bhimganj. Village Devipur's installation date had been moved up by 2 weeks to a date we couldn't possibly meet. The contact person for Village Narsing was now listed as someone I'd never heard of. I scrolled through the file. Every village, every single one, changed. Lyra, I said. I was still trying to stay reasonable, still trying to believe this was somehow a misunderstanding. These villages have been planned for 6 months. The elders are expecting us on specific dates. The equipment is already sorted and loaded for specific locations. You can't just change everything 3 days before launch. Why not? She tilted her head. Isn't the point of working here to make improvements? This isn't an improvement. This is... I stopped, took a breath. Did you save over the original file? Well, yeah. That's how improvements work. You replace the old version with the better one. Where's the backup? Backup? She blinked at me. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, was I supposed to keep a backup? Oops. That word. Oops. Like she'd spilled water. Like this was nothing. I need you to undo this, I said. Right now. Whatever you remember about what the file looked like before, we need to try to fix it. I don't really remember what it looked like before, Lyra said. She stood up from my chair and stretched. Besides, I like my version better. It makes more sense. It makes no sense. You've never been to these villages. You don't know the people there, or what they're expecting, or maybe that's your problem, she interrupted. You got too personally involved. This is a business project, not a friendship tour. I felt something shift in my chest, a realization settling in that I didn't want to accept. You did this on purpose, I said quietly. Her smile changed, became something uglier. Oops, guess you'll have to start over, loser. The word loser hung between us. She picked up her bag from the floor, slung it over her shoulder, and walked past me. Good luck fixing it, she said over her shoulder. You've got 3 days. I stood there alone in my workspace. The monitor still showing the destroyed file. 6 months of work, 112 villages, hundreds of conversations. All of it scrambled into nonsense by someone who'd been bored on a Tuesday morning. My hands were shaking, so I sat down. Not in my chair that still felt contaminated somehow, but in the visitor's seat beside it. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do. The first thing I did was go to the boss. His name was Rakesh, and he was Lyra's uncle, her mother's brother. He'd been running the regional branch of Brightwave Communications for 8 years. He was the one who'd hired me, the one who'd given me the coordinator position for this project. His door was open, so I walked in. We have a serious problem, I said. He looked up from whatever he was reading. What kind of problem? Lyra just destroyed the entire village rollout plan. She changed every assignment, every date, every contact. The launch is in 3 days, and nothing matches up anymore. I watched his expression carefully, waited for the shock, the anger, the immediate action to fix this disaster. He sighed, leaned back in his seat. She's learning the business, Sable. These things happen when you're training someone new. She didn't make a mistake, I said. I kept my voice level, professional. She deliberately changed everything and then deleted the original version. She told me to start over. Did she tell you why she made the changes? She said my planning seemed inefficient. Well, he picked up his pen, clicked it twice. Maybe take a look at her suggestions. Sometimes fresh perspectives can. There's no suggestion to look at, I interrupted. She switched village assignments randomly. The equipment won't match the locations. The dates are impossible to meet. The contact people don't exist. It's not a fresh perspective. It's sabotage. The word felt heavy in the room. Rakesh's expression hardened. That's a serious accusation, he said. It's what happened. Lyra is family, Sable. She's here to learn. If there was a communication breakdown about how to properly update shared files, that's a training issue, not sabotage. I stared at him. She deleted 6 months of planning 3 days before launch. Then recreate it, he said. That's what I pay you for. You're the coordinator. Coordinate. He looked back down at whatever he'd been reading. The conversation was over. I walked back to my workspace and sat down. Really sat down this time. In my own chair. The monitor still showed Lyra's version of the file. The broken one. The one that would cause our installation teams to show up at wrong villages with wrong equipment on wrong dates. The one that would make me look incompetent or careless or both. The one that would break promises I'd made to 112 villages that had trusted me. I sat there for a long time. Maybe 20 minutes. Just breathing. Just thinking. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out my journal. Thank you so much for listening to my story so far. I really appreciate you being here. Before I continue further, I want to know where you're listening from. Drop your city or country in the comments. I love hearing from all of you. Now, back to what happened next. The journal was simple. Brown cover, pages filled with my handwriting. 6 months of notes. Not the official company version with proper formatting and approved templates. Just my words. My promises. My record of every single conversation I'd had with every single village. I opened it to the first page. Village Kolapara. Meeting date. Names of the elders I'd spoken with. What they'd told me about their community. The installation date I'd promised them. The specific equipment they needed. The local representative who would help coordinate on their end. All of it. Still there. still real. The company file was destroyed, but the actual relationships, the actual promises, the actual plan that was all still in my hands. I'd written it down because these people had trusted me personally, because I wanted to honor that trust, not because I thought someone would sabotage me, just because it felt right. I looked at the destroyed file on the monitor one more time. Then I closed it. I didn't try to fix it, didn't try to recreate it, didn't stay late that night trying to salvage what Lyra had broken. I just went home. In my apartment that night, I made tea and sat at my small dining area with the journal open in front of me. The pages were worn at the edges from being carried in my bag for 6 months. Some had water stains from rain. Others had dust from village roads that never quite brushed off completely. I picked up my personal mobile and looked at the first number I'd written down. Village Kolapara. The elder's name was Bhuvan. He'd served me lunch in his home when I visited. His granddaughter had wanted to know if the internet would let her watch university lectures. I'd promised her it would. I dialed his number. It rang 4 times before he answered. Hello, Bhuvan uncle. This is Sable, from Brightwave Communications. We met 4 months ago about the internet installation. Sable. Yes. We are preparing for your arrival. 3 days, correct? I closed my eyes for a moment. That's why I'm calling. There has been some confusion at the company about dates and locations, but I made you a personal promise, and I intend to keep it. Can your village still be ready on the date we originally discussed? The one I told you when we met? There was a pause. The company is changing the date? The company has some confusion in their files right now, but I'm calling you directly because my promise to you was personal, not company to village, person to person. Can you be ready? We will be ready, he said. We trust you. And quote, those 3 words, we trust you. Thank you, I said. I'll make sure everything happens exactly as I promised. I hung up and immediately dialed the next number. Village Bhimganj, then Village Devipur, then Village Narsing. Each conversation was similar. I explained there was confusion at the company. I reminded them of the original date I'd promised them personally. I asked if they could still be ready. Every single one of them said yes. Every single one of them said they trusted me. I didn't tell them I was doing this from my apartment. Didn't tell them I was using my own money for the mobile bills. Didn't tell them that the company's files now showed completely different information. I just kept my promises. 47 calls over the next 2 days. Some villages I couldn't reach because mobile signals in remote areas are unreliable. For those, I sent messages with backup numbers. I asked village leaders to confirm with neighboring villages. I built a web of personal confirmations that had nothing to do with the company's destroyed files. At work, Lyra kept watching me. She'd walk past my workspace and glance at my monitor, clearly trying to see if I was panicking, if I was desperately trying to recreate the files she'd destroyed. I wasn't touching the files at all. I did my other regular tasks, answered messages from team leaders about equipment shipments, confirmed vehicle bookings, acted like everything was proceeding normally. On the second day, she stopped beside my workspace. How's the fixing going? I didn't make you one. It's handled, I said without looking at her. Really? Because I noticed you haven't updated any of the planning files. I said it's handled. She laughed. That same laugh from before. You're going to fail so badly. I can't wait to watch. I turned to look at her directly. Is that what you want? For the project to fail? I want to watch you fail, she corrected. The project doesn't matter to me, but seeing you scramble and panic and eventually get blamed for everything, that's going to be entertaining. Why? I asked. Simple question. What did I do to you? You exist, she said. You walk around here like you're important because you got assigned some big project. Everyone talks about Sable and her village work. Sable who cares so much. Sable who's so dedicated. It's annoying. You needed to be reminded that you're nobody special. She walked away before I could respond. Not that I had a response. You can't argue with someone who hates you for existing. The morning of launch day arrived. The installation teams left headquarters early, loaded with equipment, following the routes and schedules from the company files. The files Lyra had changed. I didn't go with any of the teams. Normally, the coordinator would travel with at least one group to oversee the initial installations, but I stayed at headquarters. I said I needed to monitor all the teams from a central location. Really, I just needed to be there when everything fell apart. The first call came around noon. Rajan, One of the team leaders. His voice was confused when I answered. Sable, we're at Village Kolapara, but there's nobody here waiting for us. The equipment we brought doesn't match what they were told to expect. They're saying they weren't scheduled for today. What date were they expecting? I asked. 3 days from now. And different equipment. They're very confused about why we're here. Understood. Let me check the files and get back to you. Similar calls came throughout the afternoon. Teams arriving at villages that weren't expecting them. Equipment that didn't match what had been promised. Dates that were wrong. Contact people who didn't exist or had never heard of the project. Every installation failed. Not a single one succeeded. By evening, Rakesh was furious. He called everyone into the main meeting area. All the team leaders who'd returned. All the coordinators. And me. Someone explain to me, he said, his voice tight with anger, how every single installation today was a complete disaster. The team leaders looked at each other. Finally, Rajan spoke up. The information we were given was wrong. Villages weren't expecting us. Equipment didn't match. Dates were incorrect. Everything was confused. Rakesh turned to me. You prepared these plans. I prepared the original plans 6 months ago, I said. Those plans were changed 3 days ago. By who? I didn't say anything, just looked at Lyra. Everyone turned to look at her. She was standing near the back, and for the first time since this started, she looked nervous. I made some improvements, she said, to make the plans more efficient. Efficient, Rakesh repeated slowly. You changed village assignments, equipment distributions, installation dates, and contact information 3 days before launch to make things more efficient. Yes, without consulting the coordinator, without understanding the 6 months of relationship building that went into those plans, without knowing anything about these villages or what they'd been promised. Lyra's face was getting red. She should have been able to adapt. A good coordinator should be flexible. A good coordinator, Rakesh said, and his voice was shaking now, doesn't have to adapt to sabotage from idiots who don't understand what they're touching. I'd never heard him yell at her before. Never heard him treat her as anything other than precious family. Lyra's mouth opened, closed. She looked at me with pure hatred. Then she walked out. Rakesh ran his hand over his face, looked at me. Can you fix this? Fix what? I asked. The relationships with the villages? Those are fine. The company files? Those are destroyed. The launch schedule? We've already failed. The government deadline is tomorrow, he said. If we don't complete the installations by tomorrow evening, we lose the contract. I know. So what do we do? I almost told him. Almost explained that I'd personally confirmed all the original dates with the villages, that they were ready and waiting, that if he sent the teams to the correct locations with the correct equipment following my original plans, everything could still work. Almost. Instead, I said, I don't know what to tell you. The plans I spent 6 months creating were destroyed. The village's trust has been damaged by teams showing up at the wrong times with the wrong equipment. You told me to recreate everything in 3 days while also doing my regular work. I'm one person, not a miracle worker. He stared at me. You're saying we're going to lose this contract. I'm saying that's the natural result of what happened. The meeting ended. People dispersed. I went home. The next day, the deadline day, I didn't go to work. I called in sick, stayed in my apartment with my mobile turned off. I didn't want to be there for what was coming. Later, I heard what happened from Preeti, a friend who worked in a different department. The teams tried again, following some hastily recreated plans. They failed again. The government deadline passed. By evening, it was official. Brightwave Communications had lost the rural connectivity contract. 200 million in projected work over the next 2 years. Gone. The government wasn't happy. They'd been counting on this project. They'd already announced it to the rural communities. Now they had to start over with a different company. The following week, I was called into Rakesh's space. Lyra was there too. Both of them looked at me as I entered. Why didn't the villages respond properly to our installation teams? Rakesh asked. His voice was flat, emotionless. I coordinated with the village leaders directly. I said, built personal relationships with them over 6 months. They were expecting us on the dates I originally promised them, not the dates that got changed at the last minute. You could have redirected them, he said. Told them the new dates. I could have, I agreed, but I wasn't asked to. I was told to recreate the destroyed plans and coordinate the existing teams. Nobody asked me to contact the villages personally. That was technically true. Nobody had asked me. They'd assumed the villages would just accept whatever dates the company decided to show up. You deliberately let this project fail, Lyra said suddenly. Her voice was sharp with accusation. You were angry at me, so you sabotaged the entire launch. I looked at her calmly. I didn't change any files. I didn't reroute any teams. I didn't destroy 6 months of planning 3 days before launch. That was you. You could have fixed it. Maybe I could have. If I'd been given the resources, the support, and the respect necessary to do my job. Instead, I was told to recreate everything alone while being blamed for problems I didn't create. Rakesh held up his hand. This conversation is pointless. The contract is lost. Someone has to be held responsible. He looked at me. You're fired. I nodded. I know. That's it? He said. No argument? No begging to keep your job? Would it change anything? He didn't answer, just looked away. I walked out of Brightwave Communications for the last time, got my things from my workspace. Nobody said goodbye. Some people wouldn't look at me. They thought I'd failed, thought I'd cost the company millions. I went home and updated my resume, started looking for new positions. I wasn't worried. I was good at my work. I'd find something. What I didn't expect was the call that came 2 weeks later. The number wasn't one I recognized. I almost didn't answer because I was tired of explaining to people why I'd been let go from Brightwave. But something made me pick up. Hello? Is this Sable? A woman's voice. Professional, but warm. Yes. My name is Anjali. I'm with Skylink Networks. We recently acquired the government contract for rural internet connectivity, the same project Brightwave was handling. My stomach tightened. I see. We've been reaching out to the village leaders to introduce ourselves and establish timelines. Interesting thing happened. Every single person we spoke with asked about you, by name. They said they wouldn't work with us unless you were involved. I sat down slowly. They said that? More than that. One village elder, Bhuvan, spent 20 minutes telling me how you kept your promise to him personally, even when your company created confusion. How you called him directly to make sure his village would be ready. How you were the only person from Brightwave who treated them with genuine respect. I didn't know what to say. When we investigated further, Anjali continued, we found similar stories from 47 villages. All of them specifically requested you. Some said they'd rather wait for a different project than work with anyone else. I just did my job, I said quietly. No, you built trust. Real trust. The kind that doesn't come from corporate protocols or official meetings. That's rare. We need someone like you. She paused. We're offering you the same coordinator position for this project. Same villages, same work. But with Skylink, you'd have full support, actual resources, and 20% higher pay than what Brightwave was giving you. 20% higher. I'd been with Brightwave for 3 years and never gotten more than a standard annual increase. When would I start? I asked. How soon can you begin? I started at Skylink Networks 1 week later. The project was delayed by 6 weeks because of Brightwave's failure, but the government understood that proper coordination takes time. They were more interested in doing it right than doing it fast. My first day, Anjali introduced me to the team. This is Sable. She'll be leading the rural connectivity coordination. The village leaders specifically asked for her, and after reviewing her previous work, we understand why. Give her whatever support she needs. No questions about whether I was capable. No suggestions that I needed supervision. Just trust. I opened my journal again, the same brown-covered one with 6 months of notes, and I started making calls. Bhuvan, uncle. It's Sable. I'm calling from Skylink Networks. We're taking over the internet installation project. I want to confirm the original date I promised you. Are you still ready? Sable. Yes, we are ready. We told the new company we would only work with you. I heard. Thank you for that trust. I won't let you down. The same conversation happened 112 times. Every village, every leader, every promise renewed. This time, when installation teams went out, they went to the right villages with the right equipment on the right dates. This time, the village leaders were waiting with welcome ceremonies. This time, children gathered to watch the equipment being set up, excited about what it would mean for them. This time, everything worked exactly as planned. The project took 4 months to complete, every installation successful, every village connected. The government was so pleased they started discussing expansion projects with Skylink for other regions. I was in my workspace, updating the completion reports, when Anjali came by. The government wants you to coordinate the expansion, she said. 5 more regions. Double the villages. Are you interested? Yes, I said without hesitation. Good. We're promoting you to senior coordinator. Another 25% increase. You'll be building your own team. I thought about my tiny workspace at Brightwave, how I'd done everything alone, how asking for help was treated as weakness. Thank you, I said. You earned it, Anjali replied. Those village leaders didn't recommend you because they felt sorry for you. They recommended you because you're exceptional at what you do. 6 months after joining Skylink, I heard through former colleagues what was happening at Brightwave. Lyra had been quietly transferred. No official announcement, no explanation. Just moved to some administrative position in a different branch where she processed routine paperwork and had no contact with actual projects. Someone told me she'd complained to her uncle about the transfer. He'd apparently told her she was lucky to still have a job at all. Rakesh was still running the regional branch, but the loss of the 200 million contract had damaged his reputation badly. The main headquarters had started questioning his decisions, started requiring approval for things he used to handle independently, started treating him less like a successful branch manager and more like someone who needed supervision. I heard he'd tried to win back some credibility by going after other big government projects. He was always underbid by competitors, always missing out. The word in the industry was that Brightwave's regional branch was declining. People were leaving. Clients were switching to other providers, including, eventually, some of their biggest clients who switched specifically to Skylink because they'd heard about the rural connectivity project, about how smoothly it had gone, about the coordinator who'd built real relationships instead of just processing transactions. One afternoon, I was at a government meeting about the expansion project when I saw Rakesh. He was there trying to pitch Brightwave for a smaller regional contract, something that would have been beneath his attention a year ago. He saw me too. Our expressions met briefly. He looked older, tired. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, just looked away and returned to my conversation with the government officials who were asking about timeline projections for the expansion. When the meeting ended, he was standing near the exit, like he'd been waiting. Sable, he said as I walked past. I stopped. Rakesh, you're doing well at Skylink. I am. I heard the village leaders specifically requested you, that they wouldn't work with us after what happened. That's correct. He was quiet for a moment. You could have fixed it. That day, you knew how to reach the villages. You had the relationships. Yes, I said simply. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Because you were angry. I shook my head. Because I was done. There's a difference. Anger fades. Being done is permanent. We lost everything because of what Lyra did, he said. The contract, the reputation, the future projects. She destroyed it all. No, I corrected gently. She started the destruction. You finished it when you told me to just recreate 6 months of work in 3 days and blamed me for problems I didn't create. When you chose family loyalty over basic professional judgment. When you made it clear that my work didn't matter, as long as she was comfortable. His jaw tightened. You cost us 200 million in business. I kept the promises I made to people who trusted me. That's all I did. The fact that those promises no longer aligned with your company's interests isn't my responsibility. It's yours. I walked past him, didn't look back. That was 8 months ago now. I'm still at Skylink Networks, still coordinating rural connectivity projects. The expansion is going beautifully. My team has grown to 7 people, all of whom actually want to be here and do good work. Last month, I went back to Village Kulapara to check on their internet connectivity, make sure everything was still functioning properly. Bhuvan uncle insisted I stay for lunch again. His granddaughter, the one who'd wanted to watch university lectures, showed me her progress. She'd been accepted into an engineering program. Online classes supplemented with local tutoring. Because of you, Bhuvan said. Because you kept your promise. Because you trusted me, I replied. That evening, driving back to headquarters, I thought about Lyra spinning in my chair, about her smile when she'd called me a loser, about how certain she'd been that destroying my work would destroy me. She'd been wrong about what mattered, wrong about what could actually be destroyed. Files can be deleted. Plans can be changed, jobs can be lost, but promises kept, relationships built on genuine respect, trust earned through consistent action, those things live in people, not in systems. You can't sabotage them by changing files. You can't destroy them by manipulating company politics. Lyra had wanted to watch me fail. Instead, she'd watched me walk away from a place that didn't value my work into one that did. She'd wanted to prove I was nobody special. Instead, she'd created the circumstances that proved exactly how valuable I was. Sometimes, the best outcome isn't defeating someone. It's outgrowing the space where they tried to diminish you. It's building something better while they're still tangled in the mess they created. I don't know what Lyra's doing now. Don't particularly care. I heard she eventually left Brightwave entirely, moved to a different city. Maybe she learned something. Maybe she didn't. Rakesh is still running that branch, still watching his numbers decline, still trying to rebuild a reputation that gets harder to salvage every quarter. And me? I'm coordinating the connection of 237 villages to the internet, keeping promises, building trust, doing work that matters. That's not triumph. That's just life continuing past the moment someone tried to break it. The tea had gone cold that morning when Lyra spun in my chair. I'd set it down and never picked it back up, left it there, on the shelf. I wonder if it's still there. Probably not. Someone would have thrown it away eventually, cleaned up the space for the next person. But the journal I'd kept, the one with all the promises written by hand, that's still with me. Still has those same water-stained pages and dust that won't brush off. I keep it in my workspace at Skylink, not because I need it for reference anymore, because it reminds me what actually matters. Not the systems, not the files, not the corporate structures or family connections or political games. The people, the promises, the trust, everything else is just noise. Thank you so much for listening to my story all the way to the end. It means everything to me that you stayed through all of this. If this story moved something in you, if it made you feel anything at all, please hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me about times you've had to choose between what's easy and what's right. And subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this, because I have plenty more to share. Thank you again, really, for listening.